Hi there.
You've been trouble from the very beginning.
It was really interesting for me to hear Anne talk about the non-physical being behind her, which I've never heard her say before, because when I feel energy in my body, and it happens all the time now, it feels like it's coming in through my back. Is there a reason for that?
Well, you are the interpreter of it. Actually, energy is coming through the trillions of cells, and when it feels like energy's coming in, it isn't coming in, it's just being allowed to move through you in a more full fashion. In other words, the energy isn't out there trying to get into you, sneaking up behind you and jumping in when you're not looking. The energy is entering through individual cells. Every cell of your body is a receptacle for this energy. But when you find yourself in a moment of less resistance, so that you allow the energy to move, for some reason the sensation of that movement is being translated by you through your back. Esther feels it as a band around her head, but that's because she's thinking in terms of being a receiver, and she has always thought of us as being up there, so it seems logical that's where it would be. And when she feels energy move, that's the sensation of reception that she has. But it's not coming through your back, and it's not coming through her head.
Right. So now I just expect it to be that way, and so that's how it continues to be?
We would say so.
Yeah.
You could shift that. In other words, you could establish, you could say, well, first of all, what do you mean by energy coming? What do you mean by that?
Well,
you're talking about when consciousness comes stronger, or the Abraham who's visiting with you, or what do you mean by the energy?
Well, I feel a sensation that, to me, it's like tingly. It's like a tingly sensation, and
well, that tingly sensation is actually resistance moving. In other words, any sensation, if you were truly aligned, there would be no refrigerator buzzing. And the sensations are not your acknowledgement of energy coming, it's your acknowledgement of resistance lifting.
Right. Yeah, and I'd heard you say that before, so I wasn't super proud about it, but so like another thing that happens is when I focus, and my hand just now raised, it started to raise when Anne was sitting here by itself. I just sat there and watched it go up. And
well, you see, what's interesting about that is we talk about this vortex and how once you're in it and a cooperative component, that all kinds of impulses begin to occur. And so what you're saying is, I don't think I had a conscious intention to raise my hand, and yet I'm raising my hand. What's up with that? And we say, you're in the vortex, and so you are a cooperative component. And so in the same way that we were saying that you rendezvous with ideas, you rendezvous with thoughts, eventually you rendezvous with other people and techniques, and even money to front your business or whatever it is, that you would rendezvous with impulses. Happens to you all the time when you drive. There are a lot of impulses that come when you drive that are not orchestrated by your conscious awareness of the way you want to move your machine.
Right. Okay. And is there a line, or can you help me find the line between focusing and trying too hard?
It's an emotional indicator. So focusing successfully feels interesting or exciting or passionate or fulfilling, and trying too hard feels edgy.
I guess I should clarify a little bit. I'm talking about focusing internally in terms of like meditation, because
We are too.
okay.
Because you know that feeling, and many of you have had it, where you move into what you would consider to be a meditative state, where you feel detached. Yes, you know, and in that feeling of detachment, then at first, or somewhere in there, it feels sort of blissful, but then there's almost a tension in it. And many describe it as, it feels like I'm supposed to hear something or do something, but I don't know what it is. That's trying too hard. That's, you've interjected the, well, now I'm here, shouldn't I do something important with it, like heal someone? Where, and that's, so that's why that emotional line is, when you feel it, try to relax into it. Esther discovered early on in her meditation process, after she had received us, but she wasn't really stable in the experience of us yet, and wasn't really for sure who we even were. She knew it felt good, but she still worried about what it might lead to. She would have never let it lead to this if she had known that's where it was going.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
And so it's all his fault. So she discovered in that do you understand that state that we're talking about, where you're allowing but it feels a little tense? Does that description resonate with anything you've experienced? Because as Esther would find that, she would offer the words, I'm willing. Okay. I'm willing, meaning I know it's not for me to do, but I'm willing to just get myself out of the way as best I can. And today, if she would say, I'm willing to go into the vortex, and I'm willing to allow the vortex to culminate into whatever it's ready to culminate in, to the degree that I am able to allow it. Mm-hmm. Is the way she would speak it today.
Well, so like yesterday during the intro, I started saying something similar to that to myself about allowing, because I had felt the tingles all morning, and then when I got to that point where I started to think about allowing, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but I was dry heaving a little bit. And I've had that experience when I've sat, because all this stuff that's been happening, like when I would do Reiki on people, and my arms moved, and then my head moved, and then my mouth started moving, but nothing was coming out in terms of words, just sort of like little whispers. And so I thought, well, maybe I'm going to do what Esther does now. And I had never really thought of myself in that way before that, but so I've sat with people and said, get a question ready, because I know that it's important to have the step one there too. And when that happens, it really doesn't take me long to get to that state where my mouth and jaw are doing all kinds of things, but the dry heaving is a little unpleasant, obviously. But afterwards, I feel euphoric, even though there's been no answer verbally from me to the question.
Well, you are breaking through some sort of resistance. Uh-huh. And what you're describing it's a bit like what we were talking about asking more of the vortex than you are quite up to speed with. But it doesn't mean that you should stop doing what you're doing, because that's how you get up to speed. Uh-huh. In other words, in the beginning, it was that way for Esther, in that the energy was stronger than she was ready for. But by continuing to allow it and then relax into it and allow it and relax into it, before long she was ready for the energy. So it's that sort of thing. Mm. You get to decide. You get to decide in what way you interface with this energy. Mm-hmm. In other words, a lot of people who who are dealing with Reiki or healing, who can feel their connection to energy and are wanting to be a conduit that makes it more available to others. There is, and we know you've heard us talk about this many times, but there is sometimes just we would say, in your case, if it exists at all, and it does slightly, a very small, flawed premise that goes something like, somehow I'm harnessing the energy and projecting it. And when you back away from that visual and instead acknowledge the energy is already harnessed and I'm walking into it, it's a different thing. It softens the trying too hard because there's nothing for you to do. And yet, in all of that, you have to focus something. In other words, your desire in and of itself is a focus and therefore is an effort or a trying. So just play with it and work with it until it is comfortable.
Okay.
Good.